right, let's talk testing. In the JavaScript world, picking the right framework can feel like a lot. So today, we're going to cut through all that noise. We're going to build a super clear playbook for choosing the right tools so you and your team can ship better software, faster, and with a whole lot more confidence. So, let's start with the stuff that drives us all crazy. If you've ever spent a whole afternoon just wrestling with some complex testing setup or a flaky mock, you are definitely not alone. I mean, look at this. The latest State of JavaScript survey confirms what we all kind of feel in our gut. Mocking and configuration are the absolute biggest roadblocks for developers right now. So that really begs the question, right? How do we pick the right tools to build a testing strategy that's not just powerful, but one that actually makes our lives easier instead of adding more friction to our workflow? Okay, before we even touch a single tool, we need a solid mental model. We need to know what we're actually trying to do here. And I like to think about testing in three really distinct levels of confidence. So at the very foundation, we have unit tests. Now think of this like inspecting a single tiny gear in a car's engine. We're testing one function or one module totally in isolation. These things run in milliseconds, and they give us this laser-focused feedback on our core business logic. Moving up a level, we get to component tests. This is like testing the car's entire dashboard after it's all been put together. We're not just looking at a single gear anymore. We're mounting a real UI component in a real browser to make sure all of its parts, the buttons, the displays, how the state changes, all of it works together as a cohesive whole. And finally, at the very top, we have end-to-end tests. This is it. This is the full test drive. These tests spin up a real browser and act like a real user, clicking through pages, filling out forms, talking to a real backend. This is our ultimate proof that the entire car, from engine to dashboard, actually works and delivers value. Okay, so let's pop the hood and get into the engine room, starting with the tools that are going to power those foundational unit tests. For unit testing, the main showdown right now is between two heavyweights: Jest, the long-standing, battle-tested champion, and Vitest, the super-fast, modern challenger. And really, the key difference comes down to one word: performance. Vitest is built on Vite's engine, making it ESM native with an incredibly fast dev server. We're talking orders of magnitude faster than Jest's older architecture. Now, this chart, this tells a really fascinating story. Jest has been the undisputed king for years, right? But just look at Vitest's meteoric rise. It's not just growing, it is exploding in popularity. And that kind of momentum, well, that's a huge signal that a major shift is happening in the entire ecosystem. So the takeaway here is super clear. Stick with Jest if you're working in a large existing codebase that really depends on its mature ecosystem and stability. But, and this is a big but, for any new project, especially one that's already using modern tools like Vite, you should absolutely choose Vitest. The speed and developer experience are just on another level. All right, now let's shift gears. We've talked about the engine. Let's talk about the actual driving experience, the tools that give us that full test drive confidence and make sure what our users see and interact with works perfectly. You know, the biggest difference between Playwright and Cypress, it really comes down to their core philosophy. Playwright acts as a powerful external automator that remotely controls the browser. Cypress, on the other hand, actually lives inside the browser. And that one architectural difference creates two completely different testing experiences. And this table just lays it all out. Playwright's out-of-process architecture gives it this incredible versatility. It supports more browsers, including Safari's engine, WebKit, and can even be driven by other languages. Cypress, by running inside the browser, offers this absolutely world-class interactive debugging UI, but it pretty much keeps you inside the JavaScript ecosystem. Honestly, using Cypress feels like you have an interactive copilot. It's famous for its time travel debugger, which lets you literally step backward and forward through your test, see snapshots of your app at every single stage, and debug right there in the browser. It creates this amazing feedback loop for when you're building and iterating on UIs. Playwright, though, that's your CI detective. Its real superpower is its trace viewer. You know those awful tests that pass on your machine but always fail in CI? Well, when that happens, Playwright gives you a perfect step-by-step recording of everything that happened: network requests, console logs, DOM snapshots. It's the fastest way to find the root cause of those flaky tests. Okay, so having great tools is one thing, but a reliable process, that's what truly saves us from those headaches we saw earlier, especially when it comes to things like mocking and making sure our tests are rock solid in CI. So to deal with that number one pain point we saw, mocking, we're going to turn to Mock Service Worker, or MSW. Instead of cluttering our test files with messy mock implementations, MSW intercepts API calls at the network level. This means we can define our mocks once in a single place, and it keeps our actual tests clean and our application code completely untouched. It's a game changer. A stable CI pipeline is just non-negotiable. And the secret is to separate your concerns. You have one job that just installs dependencies and builds the app, and then it saves that output as an artifact. Then you can have multiple parallel jobs that all download that exact same build artifact to run the tests. This gets rid of inconsistencies and makes your test runs way faster and more reliable. So after looking at the entire landscape, the pain points, and the best practices, let's put it all together. Here is the simple, actionable playbook that I recommend for any new project starting today. Here it is, short and sweet. For your unit and component tests, use Vitest. You want that speed. For your end-to-end tests, go with Playwright for its cross-browser power and amazing CI debugging. For all of your API mocking, use MSW to keep things stable and clean. And finally, tie it all together with that clean, artifact-based CI workflow. And that brings us to one last, kind of mind-bending thought. With new runtimes like Bun and Dino now shipping with their own test runners built right in, the entire landscape might be shifting again. Are we heading towards a future where we don't even choose a testing framework anymore because it's just a core part of the JavaScript platform itself? It's definitely something to keep an eye on. All right, let's